Team Griffins from South Africa. Give them a hand.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and to our esteemed Board of Directors. A comprehensive report has been drawn up for the VWAG Board of Directors, in which key and critical issues have been highlighted, and practical, ethical, and cost-efficient solutions to these problems have been provided. We prioritize the following issues based on their ethical implications, their urgency, as well as their impact on the company. On the top of our list is the Paris Accord and environmental legislation, due to its utter urgency and its ethical implications. The next two issues we prioritized was the strategic sourcing of cobalt in Africa and the e-mobility strategy, due to it envisioning VW's ambitious goals for the next 5 years and the strategy for 2025. The last two are the strategy and cost optimization and the product portfolio rationalization, providing the most cost-efficient solutions for the future operation of VWAG.
VWAG has a problem with regards to the Paris Accord on climate change mitigation. By January 2019, all road engines must emit less than 99 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometer. Otherwise, the manufacturer will be charged 600 million euros annually. At the moment, VW's engines emit an average of 125 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometer. This leaves VW with a problem with three possible solutions. They can either modify their current engines to reduce their emissions, they could ignore the restrictions altogether, or they could develop brand new engines. By modifying the current engines, it will be easy to bring the lower-end, low-powered vehicles below the threshold. However, the higher-end, higher-powered vehicles will be much more difficult to bring below the threshold, which makes it more likely that VW will incur these fines. Ignoring the restrictions altogether could also possibly be profitable for VW. The fines will be incurred, however, absolutely no cost will be incurred in researching and developing new engines or modifying the current one. However, this is a highly unethical option, which is why we believe that the board should disregard this option completely. Developing new engines has many advantages for VW. The fines will not be incurred as all the engines would be brought below the threshold. Developing these new engines would also allow VW to research and incorporate electric vehicle technology, helping them on their goal to becoming the #1 electric vehicle producer in the world. This option has a significant net present cost compared to the other two options. But we believe that VW should choose to develop these new engines, as it is the ethical option, and will build much needed trust between their customers and the business after their Dieselgate scandal in 2015. Secondly, we believe that it will help VW to stay at the forefront of electric vehicle development.
VW is in need of a strategic source of cobalt in Africa in order to jumpstart their electrical industrial production for their Strategy 2025 goal. Their current plan is to use artisanal miners who siphon cobalt out of the DRC in order to meet their current needs. But unfortunately, the scarcity of suppliers will make this almost impossible. This is why VW will need to consider alternate suppliers to meet their needs. Conforming to local rules and regulations set out by mining corporates will allow VW to requisite enough cobalt to offset the deficit that will arise if VW only uses artisanal miners to supply their cobalt. They will allow them to supply cobalt at a fast enough rate and large enough volume in order to meet their demands, but negotiations will be lengthy as they will have to renegotiate, and this could be a much more costly option. Our key recommendation is therefore for VW to source the majority of their cobalt from artisanal miners who siphon this out of the DRC, but under strict administrative, investigative, and monitoring conditions, while obtaining the remainder from mining corporates after renegotiation processes have taken place.
VW, as part of the Strategy 2025, would like to become one of the world leaders in electric vehicles. An important aspect of this would be to have a developed electric vehicle battery. Also, VW had a contract with Panasonic, which they opted out of, predicting that the electric car market would not be profitable. However, times have changed, and VW is now looking for a new supplier. 4 suppliers have been given, of which we believe Panasonic is the best option. Panasonic boasts 3-year contracts, which is favorable over the 6-month contracts offered by other suppliers, as it provides more stability for VW in terms of the supply of batteries and the cost of these batteries. Panasonic offers the just-in-time inventory management system, which ensures that batteries are not kept for long periods of time in storage before they're actually used in a vehicle. They also, from suppliers, they also have the best production quality. They also supply Tesla with batteries, showing that they have a proven track record and reliability. Lastly, they boast the lowest average cost per unit of 390 euros, which is why we recommend that VW should renegotiate the cancelled contract with Panasonic, but should eventually look to develop their own batteries in the future.
VW AG is currently faced with the predicament of whether or not to centralize their business structure and what their strategy is regarding the variety of vehicles to be manufactured is. The advantages of centralization being better decision-making, reduced costs, a clearer line of communication, which all leads to a more efficient implementation of strategies. The disadvantages being delays in work completion, bureaucratic leadership coming into place, and executives becoming overburdened due to the workforce being greatly reduced. However, we've made it our key recommendation to implement a centralized business structure. We secondly recommend that VW should continue on their current strategy of manufacturing a large variety of vehicles. This is because, after looking at the profit margins and the total sales revenues of the individual car categories, the premium and super premium brands collectively make up 36% of the total annual sales revenue, which is why VW is one of the fiercest competitors on the car market today.
VW AG is in need of a product portfolio rationalization for the reorganization and regrouping of their product ranges, which will help to identify losses, maximize profits, and maximize marketing efficiency regarding their product ranges. This is imperative for VW to remain a competitor in an ever-shifting market. We have two proposals for VW to consider. The first is to reduce the price of the volume range of products. The factors of this proposal include more units needing to be produced in order to break even, but the more units needing to be produced will ultimately lead to a higher sales volume and therefore a higher gross profit. Our second proposal is to cease production of underperforming vehicle lines that are causing losses for VW, as the constant changing of the market makes this impractical. However, demand may shift over time, so if VW does not have a model that is in demand at a current time, they will suffer substantial losses. Therefore, we make it our key recommendation that VW reduces the price of their volume range and rationalize their volume segment of products.
We hope that the aforementioned solutions and key recommendations to VW AG's critical problems will result in a more ethical and cost-efficient future operation for the company. Thank you, and we will gladly accept any questions.
Hello, and thank you. That was brilliant. So first of all, I'm sure you can't wait for the day people don't say this to you anymore, but for you and all the teams, I think your parents must be incredibly proud of you. I can say this as a parent. So I have some questions. The first is, and these are, if you can just keep it short, because I've got a couple. The first was, why choose Cobalt as number 2 priority, e-mobility 3? What was can you just explain your reason for that?
Okay, so the rationalization, so basically how we thought about it is, in order to begin the e-mobility strategy, obviously we would first be acquiring our batteries from Panasonic, which we mentioned.
Okay, you've answered the question.
Okay.
If that's
can I elaborate further a little bit?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, I just needed to understand how you were thinking.
Okay.
The second is, the world being what it is, I mean, if you look around, the world is not a perfect place, and business is very competitive and not always playing by fair rules. How do you think Tesla would react to your suggestion that VW go back, renegotiate with Panasonic, bearing in mind that Tesla is taking virtually all of Panasonic's battery at the moment? The Gigafactory is almost completely Tesla. So how do you think Tesla would react, and how do you think that VW should deal with that?
So Because Tesla are acquiring most of their batteries, and because they manufacture the most of the electric cars on the market today, I think, as we said, on our e-mobility strategy, one of the advantages of Panasonic is that they have a proven track record with Tesla. So instead of getting defensive and trying to renegotiate and cut Tesla out of it at first, we're going to try and incorporate everyone and show them that it's actually a positive that they've acquired batteries with them, because they've established that Panasonic is one of the best batteries out there because of their brand.
I hear you, and I just wanted to give you a chance to... you're giving me a managed answer, but honestly, think about when you're playing sport at school and people are trying to score the goal. Not everybody plays fair. So how do you think Tesla is going to respond? And how do you think VW should mitigate or manage that?
I think...
Just give me if you were playing strategy here, what would your recommendation be?
Because Tesla is a major competitor, they're obviously not going to be happy with this. There's obviously going to be a backlash because we have proposed to renegotiate contracts with Panasonic. But I think the key here is when we're renegotiating contracts to be as civil as possible about it, and then eventually, as we propose, to become one of the leaders in electric car production after developing our own batteries.
I think one of the main things with that as well is, if Tesla will obviously have a backlash, but we need to keep our image as VW. We need to just take it and not retaliate, because if we do that, we're ruining our image.
Okay, it's not an easy question. You've explained your presentation was well explained. I just want to pass on. I've got some other questions, but I want to pass on to the other judges first.
So in your product portfolio rationalization issue, you are recommending reducing the price of the volume range. So talk to us about the potential perceived quality issues that will be associated with that price reduction, and what therefore becomes your go-to-market strategy for that cost reduction tactic.
Could we just have a moment to confer with each other? So the big thing about VW is because they are a German brand, they've been associated with German quality. So because the brand has already been established, and we have other subsidiaries like Bentley, Bugatti, and Audi, and because of the diverse range of vehicles that we are producing, we are known for our quality. So if we reduce the price, although the Dieselgate scandal of 2015 has tarnished our reputation and the trust between customers, I feel like the question of quality is not going to come into consideration. It's just the question of our ethics, which came in from 2015, but the quality of our brand has not changed. We still manufacture the same quality, but we've made the strategic decision to reduce the price of the volume range.
That's a very fair answer, but what therefore becomes your go-to-market strategy? And is the cost reduction a strategy or a tactic, by the way?
So our market strategy would obviously be appealing more to the people, because in emerging markets like Africa and Asia, which have low GDP and as well as undeveloped economies, I feel like that our marketing strategy for reducing the prices would be them appealing more to these undeveloped markets. And eventually, because we are targeting this type of market, it will just lead to an increase in sales volumes.
You were planning to work with the artisan miners. With the attaching risks that will come with being associated with them, what sort of plans or actions do you would you undertake to make sure that you reduce the risks that would come with working with them, and how would you take the relationship going forward?
I think in regards to the safety of the VW brand, working with the artisan miners obviously will have an effect, but we'll have to make it clear with our customer base and the people that do support us that VW will be doing everything that they can to make sure that the cobalt is sourced and mined in the most fair way possible and in the most ethical way possible for the people there. And I think the marketing will need to have a shift in regards to that strategy to make sure that customers do not take a bad light to what we're trying to do, because what we're trying to do in getting the cobalt is supporting a much larger initiative, the e-mobility strategy, in order to promote our brand more as being more environmentally friendly. And I think following from that, as that goes forward into the future, we'll be more able to mitigate the issues associated with using the artisanal miners.
And then adding on to that further, I just think because when we start negotiations with the artisanal miners, it's not going to be a question of just employing them. We're obviously going to have to put them under a rigorous set of basically, we're going to have to put them under terms of employment, because the way that they're going to operate is going to be very important to us, because they can't operate unethically and using child labor, because then it would further tarnish our image and just the question of human decency and morality. But obviously, we would have to have a strict terms of employment, and then we'd have to employ inspectors or people from a company who understand the core company values, who can assess the mining activities that are going on in the DRC and make sure that they are conforming to our regulations and our company core values.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for a very thoughtful and well-considered presentation. It really was great to see. Thank you for that. I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball question, so bear with me. So if cobalt is not considered to be a conflict mineral, okay, but there is discussions now currently to actually make it a conflict mineral, and there is technology around the blockchain that is now being launched for cobalt and all sorts of these other minerals that can actually trace the mineral at its source. Now, we've today been discussing, this is actually for all the teams, we've been discussing this because it's not something we've ever had to disclose. And whatever you've proposed has been literally within the confines of Volkswagen. No one has to really know. You can assuage your conscience. But if it did become a conflict mineral and your consumers were able to actually trace that it was in a highly, although to the best of your efforts, still something that was very egregious to some degrees with child labor, what additional measures would you do? So you've made some great recommendations. Is there anything else you would then do in that situation?
I think as part of a larger scale, this is a bit grandiose, but as part of a larger scale, moving forward with the e-mobility strategy, I think VW would benefit from being able to put a monopoly on cobalt within Africa and especially within the DRC, and possibly initiate not takeovers, but communication with operations that are existing in there and become joint collaborators in that section and then slowly assimilate them into a proper organization with proper regulations, proper rules enforcement, and eventually it will become a full functioning entity without any of the ethical problems that will have arisen.